CBS 46 News presents Public Affairs on Peach.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Public Affairs on Peach. I'm Giovanna Derpick. 4 months ago, we brought you a show on DACA and immigration. Well, guess what? 4 months later, both are still in the news, and that's why we are tackling a whole show on this. My first guests are Aisha Yaqub, Policy Director for Asian Americans Advancing Justice Atlanta, and Raymond Partolan, a dreamer. And by dreamer, of course, we mean that he was brought to the U.S. illegally as a child. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Aisha, you've done a lot of lobbying efforts here at the state capitol and also done some advocacy at the nation's capital in D.C. Talk to us what that's like in the last few months in light of the fact that at one point President Trump said, okay, we have to deal with DACA separately, and then he said, no, it's going to be tied to the border wall and security.
To be very honest, it's been extremely frustrating. Time and time again, we are so close to getting a deal and something happens, the president says something or does something that throws everything out of the loop. And so for our advocates and for our community members that are relying on a permanent solution for DACA, it is, like I said before, extremely frustrating.
But I've also heard that Democrats have been trying to hold hostage this by saying, okay, no, we're not going to continue with continuing resolution, spending bill, potentially averting a government shutdown unless we deal with DACA. So they've been accused of doing the same thing too.
Yeah, and it's an extremely interesting battle about what's happening in Congress right now, but we are trying to make sure that with our allies in Congress, we are able to get a clean solution for DACA without putting other immigrant communities at risk, and that includes border funding and immigration enforcement.
Okay, now, Raymond, according to the latest CBS News poll, 70% of Americans favor DACA, including a slim majority of President Trump's own supporters. Now, do you think that that's accurate, or do you think that there's a disconnect here?
I think that is very accurate. I think that over the last several months, with President Trump's actions, this issue has risen to the forefront of the American people's minds, and people are starting to realize the kind of impact and effect that federal immigration policy has on individuals and families across the country.
But this was an issue back in 2013 as well, so it's not just President Trump.
It is a large issue that has been around for quite some time. The DREAM Act was first introduced in 2001. There has always been this question of what are we going to do with the 11 million or so undocumented people that live here in the United States. And right now at the forefront, the question is, what are we going to do with these 700,000 or so DACA recipients who have lost, who potentially lose their protection after March 5th?
Okay, now since you're considered a dreamer, talk to us about what it's been like for you emotionally the last few months.
Emotionally, it's been a huge roller coaster ride. Every day we see something different in the news. There's good news and there's bad news. There's been a lot of frustration, but at the same time, a lot of hope. I think that our communities have really come together over the last couple of months to try and call on Congress to pass a bipartisan permanent solution for dreamers across the country who are affected by these policies.
Now, Aisha, you said that you want something clean, a clean resolution. 1, 2, 3, what is that?
Well, a clean resolution, a solution for DACA recipients, but also something that does not put other immigrant communities at risk.
But what does that mean, a solution?
Right, and that means not giving more funding for immigration enforcement, which we know already targets so many of our immigrant communities here in Georgia specifically, but also across the United States. That also includes not cutting family-based immigration numbers, which is what they've been negotiating over the last couple of weeks. And we are not going to cave on something that is going to allow cuts to immigration for people that are coming from other parts of the world that just want a chance at the American dream. And that's not something that we're going to stand for.
Now, Raymond, people say it's deferred action. It never guaranteed legal status.
Yes, so in short, the deferred action program was never meant to be a permanent solution, which is what we've been talking about. And that's why now more than ever, now that the program itself is being terminated, we need Congress to act. I moved here to the United States when I was 1 from the Philippines. It's the only home that I've ever known. And our lives have always been in limbo as DACA recipients, as undocumented people.
Now, the deadline is technically March 5th. Have you made any preparations to leave? Have you even thought about what that would encompass?
I want to make this very clear right now. I have no intention of leaving the United States. I am an American through and through. This is the only place I've ever lived. And for me, I know that what I will continue to do, even after the March 5th deadline, is I will continue to organize our communities and make sure that everyone understands that we deserve the right to stay here in the United States because we are contributing members of American society, and this is our home.
But some people may say that his parents brought him here illegally, knowing full well that they were taking a chance, a risk that they could be deported. To say, you know, no, I'm staying, some people may argue, no, you're illegal.
Well, that's one of the things that we've been fighting for, is making sure that we're not also attacking the parents of our dreamers. One of the things, my favorite thing that Raymond always talks about is the fact that his parents were the original dreamers. They were the ones that brought him here in hopes of a better life, and we are not going to let those people come in the way of Raymond and his family staying here and being united. We're not going to let that happen.
Raymond, what would you tell Congress? What would you tell President Trump?
I would tell Congress and President Trump to just try and understand what the issue is here. We have built our lives here. We are employed. We go to school and we graduate, and we do what we can to make this country a better place. And I would hope that Congress and the President would understand that all we want is the chance to live our lives here in the only place we've ever known.
Few words, what does it mean to you to be American?
For me, what it means to be American is to live out our ideals and our foundations, to remember that this is a land of liberty and opportunity.
Okay. Thank you both very much. Aisha, Raymond, thank you. And when Public Affairs on Peach returns, we'll talk to a prominent immigration attorney about DACA and other immigration issues. You'll want to stick around.